I found the job listing online. It was vague, but intriguing. Assistant needed, $1,000 a week. No experience necessary. I was desperate for money, and the pay was too good to pass up. I applied and got a response almost immediately. Thank you for your interest. Please come to the following address for an interview at 8 p.m. tonight. 8 p.m. was an unusual time for an interview, but I didn't question it. I arrived at the address, a nondescript office building in a deserted part of town. The lobby was empty, and I took the elevator to the 4th floor as instructed. A woman in a dark suit greeted me as I stepped out. She introduced herself as Ms. Allen and led me to a dimly lit office. She asked me a few basic questions, then handed me a contract. Welcome aboard. Your first task begins now. I barely had time to process her words before she handed me a black envelope. Take this to 1423 Willow Street. Do not open it. Leave it in the mailbox. I nodded, my heart racing. This was odd, but I needed the money. I took the envelope and left the building. 1423 Willow Street was an old, run-down house. I hesitated, then slipped the envelope into the mailbox, as instructed. As I turned to leave, I heard a faint whisper, "Thank you." I spun around, but no one was there. Shaking, I hurried back to my car. The next day, Ms. Allen called me. "Good job. Now, for your next task." She instructed me to pick up a package from a storage unit and deliver it to an address on the outskirts of town. Again, I was not to open it. I arrived at the storage unit and found the package easily. It was a small wooden box, oddly heavy. I placed it in my car and drove to the address Ms. Allen had given me. The house was isolated, surrounded by dense woods. I left the package on the porch and was about to leave when the door creaked open. An elderly man peered out, his eyes cloudy and unfocused. "Did you bring it?" he rasped. I nodded and hurried back to my car, unnerved by the encounter. Over the next few weeks, the tasks became stranger. I delivered more packages, picked up mysterious items, and even stayed overnight in abandoned buildings. Each time, the instructions were clear. Follow the rules exactly. Do not ask questions. One night, Ms. Allen called with a new task. Go to the old cemetery on Elm Street. There's a mausoleum in the center. Enter it and place this candle on the altar inside. Light it, then leave immediately. I arrived at the cemetery just before midnight. The air was thick with fog, and the only sound was the crunch of gravel under my feet. I found the mausoleum and pushed open the heavy iron door. Inside, the air was cold and stale. I placed the candle on the altar, lit it, and turned to leave. As I reached the door, I heard a low moan. I froze, then bolted out of the mausoleum and didn't stop running until I reached my car. That night, I couldn't sleep. The moan echoed in my mind. The next morning, I found a new envelope under my door. Final task, return to the mausoleum and retrieve the candle. I didn't want to go back, but I needed the money. I arrived at the cemetery just as the sun was setting. The fog was even thicker than before. I forced myself to enter the mausoleum and found the candle still burning on the altar. I picked it up and a chill ran down my spine. As I turned to leave, the door slammed shut. I was plunged into darkness. My phone buzzed in my pocket. "Welcome to your new home." Panic set in. I pounded on the door, but it wouldn't budge. My phone buzzed again. "You shouldn't have taken the job. Watch out." I stared at the message, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. The air in the mausoleum felt heavy, pressing down on me. I tried to call Ms. Allen, but the call wouldn't go through. My phone buzzed again. There's no way out. Desperation set in. I felt along the walls, searching for any kind of escape. The stone was cold and unyielding. I banged on the door, screaming for help, but my voice echoed back at me, the sound swallowed by the darkness. Suddenly, a soft light appeared in the corner of the room. I turned to see the candle I had picked up, now floating in midair. It began to move, tracing a path along the floor. I followed it, the flickering light my only guide. The candle led me to a small, hidden door at the back of the mausoleum. I pushed against it, and to my surprise, it opened with ease. I stepped through into a narrow, dimly lit tunnel. The candle floated ahead, illuminating the way. I followed the tunnel, my heart pounding. It seemed to stretch on forever, the air growing colder with each step. I could hear whispers, faint and indistinct, coming from the walls. They seemed to be urging me forward, but their tone was menacing. Finally, the tunnel opened up into a small chamber. In the center was a stone altar, and on it lay a book bound in worn, cracked leather. The candle floated above the book, casting eerie shadows on the walls. I approached the altar and saw that the book was open. Its pages were filled with strange symbols and cryptic writing. My phone buzzed again, read aloud. I hesitated. Everything in me screamed to turn back, to escape this nightmare, but I felt a strange compulsion to obey. I took a deep breath and began to read the words on the page. As I spoke, the air around me seemed to vibrate. The whispers grew louder, more urgent. The symbols on the page began to glow, and I felt the cold wind swirl around me. The candle's flame flared up, casting a blinding light. When I finished reading, the light disappeared, plunging the chamber into darkness. I felt a presence behind me, something cold and malevolent. I turned slowly, my heart in my throat. Standing there was a figure cloaked in shadows, its eyes glowing a sickly green. It reached out a hand towards me, and I felt an icy grip around my heart. My phone buzzed one last time. You have freed me. Now, you belong to me. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The figure stepped closer, its grip tightening. I felt my strength drain away, my vision darkening. Just as I thought I was about to black out, the grip loosened. The figure vanished, and the chamber was once again illuminated by the soft glow of the candle. I collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. My phone buzzed again, and I shakily pulled it from my pocket. Congratulations, you passed the final test. Your service is no longer required. I didn't know whether to feel relieved or terrified. I stumbled out of the chamber, the candle guiding me back through the tunnel to the mausoleum. The door, which had been firmly shut, was now open. I stepped out into the cool night air, my heart still racing. I drove home in a daze, not fully comprehending what had happened. When I got there, I found a package on my doorstep. Inside was a letter and a stack of cash. Thank you for your service. This is your final payment. Do not attempt to contact us again. I looked at the money, then at the letter. It was over, but the feeling of dread lingered. I knew that, no matter what, I would never be free of the memories of those nights. The whispers, the figure in the dark, and the final, chilling words stayed with me. And sometimes, late at night, I could still hear them. Watch out.